Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Not for Broadcast. We had our very special Christmas episode with Ted. If you haven't seen that one, go check that one out. I don't usually rewatch our podcast, but I rewatched that one. You guys are fucking funny, man. You and you and
This is
Ted.
just a self promotion. What is this?
I'm promoting you. It's not a self promotion.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take it.
Anyway, I quite enjoyed myself watching that one back. But we are back to a regular schedule because we have Dota to talk about. There is lots and lots of qualifiers that have gone on, Avery. And you suggested an idea of a power ranking for the upcoming season. You still down with that?
Hell yeah, brother.
Okay. All right. How much of the qualifiers you've been watching?
About half.
Yeah. And by half, you mean like you've watched half of the Western European qualifiers,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the same with me. I haven't watched shit from the other qualifiers, to be honest. I watched like the South American finals or something for a game or something like that, and that's about it. That's maybe a little bit of Eastern Europe, but I haven't checked out any of the other regions.
So my idea for this episode is I want to do a power ranking of the teams in Dota. And the way I want to do it for Dota is I want to do it in two different lists. One of them is a power ranking of who is the best team right now in the world of Dota 2. If they
Okay.
were to play tomorrow, who would win, right? And the
Okay.
other list is who has the best chance to win TI a year from now. Because I think those two are very different. I don't think they're the same. And I think it sparks an interesting discussion. Now, I will also say that these power rankings represent my opinion or your opinion. And I don't give a flying fuck what other people think about who, like, oh, statistically, this team's better, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't give a shit. This is my opinion, based on what I think. This is my power ranking or your power ranking
Yeah.
or whatever.
Stats may not lie, but they are boring.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care who's like the number one ELO team, so that means they're number one. Like, fuck that shit. I don't care who won the last tournament. Like, I'm gonna tell you who's the best team in the world right now because everybody thinks they know. So
Okay.
that's how I think they work best. So that's my disclaimer. But that's how I separated it. I have two lists: who's the best in the world and who's going to be the best at TI, or who has the best chance to win TI. That's how I'd phrase it. Now, the reason I go into this is because you were talking about watching qualifiers. I did some research and prep on these lists, trying to think about who I would actually rank and why. And there is a drastic drop in the strength of teams after like that 8th to 10th slot. And I don't remember that being the case. I feel like it used to be more gradual. And maybe we'll come upon this in our discussions, but I feel like once you get to that 8th or 10th slot of like best team in the world, it's like who the fuck knows? It's all fucking in the same garbage heap, man. It's rough out there.
It's
rough.
a cross-regional garbage heap.
Yeah, and some of these regions are just like gone, dude. They are fucking gone, even compared to 2 years ago. Like China is gone. That shit is gone. SEA looks fucking toasted to me, brother. Like I'm looking at these rosters, they feel like cash cow rosters. It's like veteran players cashing in on their names, and power to them. You should always do that, but like these are not going to be competitive names. It's just C feels like what NA was 4 years ago. It's the washing machine of like you're cycling the same group of 30 players, and the good C players that are going to get picked up are going to either go to European team, go to like what used to be an NA team, or go to China team, but China's dead too. So like that avenue also doesn't exist. So
man, so everybody's just going to Western Europe.
Yeah, it's like honestly, it's pretty hard not to do a ranking in Dota where 10 out of your top 10 teams are European.
Okay. So
like that's one of the conclusions I came to, which doesn't mean I did that, but
yeah,
just saying.
How deep is our power ranking?
I did 10 for each.
Okay. 10. All right. I think that's fair enough. So there is entirely possible we are just not going to mention a number of regions. I feel like if you're talking about 10.
I will also say that I did have a few teams from some of these outlier regions, and I think they're the ones that stand out. And I do think they're good and they have a lot of promise, but it's all part of this that I realize it's also stacked against them Because if you're like the one SA team that I'm going to discuss, which for me is Heroic,
Of course.
because I think
Yeah.
outside of them, I don't see a team breaking into that top echelon, but I think they absolutely can, especially with the Whisper pickup. Them as an example, like I could see Heroic do well at LAN. I could see them be in that top 10 teams in the world easily. But then what do their chances at TI look like? What do their chances long term look like when they're stacked up against a European region that's ultra stacked? They don't have the scrim partner capability. They don't have as good of pubs. They don't have all these things going for them, right? Like there's a reason Whisper went to Europe in the first place and now he's going back. So yeah, it's looking rough for these outlier regions, man. I feel like you got like one team from each region now that has a chance of competing, and it's, in my opinion, not high. Like shit has been consolidated hard in the last year for sure.
Okay. So we're going to start with the first power ranking, which is who is the strongest right now. And I guess we're working off of the qualifiers that have happened. Some teams we're not seeing at all in those qualifiers. Because there's like even ESL Raleigh, there's like 4 teams that are invited to that. And we're working off of Thailand. We also had roster shuffle, so I feel like there is a lot of unknowns here. But do you have Falcons as your number 1 in your power ranking?
Well, I think we got to start. You want to start at 10 or you want to start at 1? Because you're working up.
In my head, it's easier to go top to bottom, but I'm fine to try bottom to top.
I think bottom to top is more hype, but it's less logical,
Because I feel like what's going to happen is I'm going to forget about a team somewhere in that like 5th, 6th area, and then I'll be like, oh shit, wait a minute. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Oh yeah, we can go top to bottom if you want. We can go top to bottom for this and bottom to top for the TI ranking.
Okay, sure.
That's fair. All right.
Is Falcons your number 1?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay. Who is your number 1?
My number 1 most strongest team in the world right now is BetBoom.
Okay. Why?
The way I view this is like, what team are you going to pick that if you ran 20 lands tomorrow, right? Like 300 games over 20 lands, which team is going to win? Or which team is going to go deepest the most? Not necessarily the highest win rate across like everything, but like go into that top 3 the most and have a highest chance to win them. And I genuinely think it's BetBoom now that they got GPK back.
I was leaning Falcons, and then you described that simulation, and that just cemented for me, like, yeah, it's going to be Falcons.
Yeah, because I think they're really consistent. But I think there's been a drop off, Austin. I think there's been a drop off with Falcons. I think they had their like prime year, right? The honeymoon phase. They were dominating. I think a lot of that was other teams were really bad too during that period. Like I think you had 6 or 8 months where like where the fuck was Gaming? Where the fuck was Liquid, right? They were in their mega slump. Like BetBoom was kind of in shambles. Were not nearly as strong. You had Pure jumping around teams. He got on Tundra late in that year, but like he wasn't having his season on a stable roster that he should have. Paravision didn't even fucking really exist to nearly the degree they did. Spirit was like they're in their like broken year or some shit. Like, I don't know. So like, what was the competition for them? And I honestly think they got inflated a little bit from that. Like they were by far the strongest team. I'm not saying they would have beat other strong teams, but I think their average tournament placement got a little inflated by the fact that a lot of the competition was just weak. And now if you're looking at results and you're looking at performance, they're not just crushing everybody guaranteed like I feel like they were a year ago.
I agree that the separation between Falcons and everybody else is smaller. But I still think I would still put them at 1. I still think that there is a very small separation between them, and I would have BetBoom in my top 3. I would agree with that I think BetBoom we'll see what comes around for that next
I'll tell you what holds you back on this team. I'll tell you what holds you back. It's because there's still this perspective of BetBoom that they're like these chokers that can't get first. That's the only thing that holds you back from ranking them 1. Admit it.
Yeah, because they won a tournament with stand-in GPK,
and now he's back, dude. So now they're back.
That was not the most rigorous format for that tournament. nor did it necessarily have the strongest field that they had to play against.
Whatever, man. I'm looking at players. I'm
And
looking at primes, at ability. You know what I'm saying? They got all
and
that. They got it cooking in spades.
they may have won that tournament, but then they went to choke the next tournament.
Yeah, and now they got their unchoker back, GPK. So now they're.
You think Kiyotaka choked that tournament for them? You think Kiyotaka was the reason?
I think the player synergy and confidence is just higher, and I think the consistency is higher with GPK, which was a big issue with that team. I think Pure is the best carry in the world right now. I think that guy's absolutely cooking. I think if you look at him and Save, they're still by far in their primes as players. Like, they haven't dropped off, and the team is motivated and hungry. I think that counts for a lot. Teams very easily become complacent in Dota when you win a lot, or you have a lot of money and you like gotten all these first places. I think this team is really fucking strong. I think they're really scary to play deep in a LAN format. The one downside is if they choke, like we saw at Thailand. They choked that fucking game and like then they just burnt out. That is the one downside with this team. But I think
there was no chance of them really choking Blast that much, right? Like, they just got slotted deep into the tournament.
But I think GPK over Kiyotaka removes enough inconsistency to eliminate the choke to enough percentage to push them to the top.
It wasn't that way before. It wasn't that way before with GPK.
I have faith, Austin.
We've been on this ride before, Avery.
I've seen this before. I think things are gonna change. That's all I'm saying. I think things are gonna change because the more and more you play, the more you get rid of choking. Choking is because you don't have enough experience on land. You don't have enough experience in high pressure situations. It doesn't stay with you forever. Like, there's a lot of famous players that people labeled as chokers, and after years of playing, they win like one or two, and then it goes away. Right?
Question: Are we coming to an agreement here?
No, we can have our separate opinions.
Okay. I am going to stick with Falcons at 1.
Yeah, that's fine.
I will give you Bet Boom 2. Because for me, in my I hadn't fully thought this out, but Bet Boom was just like automatically in top 3 for me.
Okay.
So I will give you Bet Boom as my number 2. Who's your number 2? Because I feel like it's not Falcons.
It's not Falcons.
Oh my god.
See, this is interesting.
Okay, is it Tundra?
It is Tundra. Yeah,
I knew it was Tundra. You suck up.
I think the BZM pickup is quite good. I think that guy's not necessarily underrated, but he is. I rate him a little higher than Lorinov, especially with the fit on that team.
Okay.
And I think they're going to be in a pretty good position with Dyrachyo playstyle wise. I actually like him a lot for that team because he, to me, is very similar to how Mikke worked with 33.
Yeah.
Which I think he figured out, so he should know, which is, I think, why they went back to a carry like that. 33 is really greedy. This guy likes to farm. He likes to be highest net worth. The Dooms, the Beastmasters, like the Visage, right? You need a carry player that can make some space, have a few deaths in the game, and not get tilted by it. And Dyrachyo is exactly that. Now, Dyrachyo has his downsides. One of them is his hero pool is kind of whack. We saw it with Gaiman a lot, where like you get in these metas where he doesn't play his heroes, and he's not the guy who's gonna go grind fucking Naga 50 games like Skeeter or something and like suddenly have it. Like, he plays what he plays and that's it. So you kind of ride or die with him in the meta. I think 33 is maybe a little similar though. Like, he has his heroes, and if his heroes aren't that good, he loses some value. So maybe that's a downside of this team. Like, they are a little dependent on the hero pools. But I think the player synergy and fit is super good now. I think their support duo is still maybe the best support duo in the world when they're hitting their stride, right? And I think the team just has everything, and I think they'll figure it out. So I rate them very highly. I think they have a very good chance of winning any lane they go to, and a very good chance of defeating a lot of the other top teams if they can get this roster to work. Now, there's a lot of unknowns, obviously. We haven't seen them really play with this roster, and who the fuck knows how they'll fit. But I assume Dyrachyo is going to be motivated in the short term.
Yeah.
Based off the kick. The downside is his motivation long term. Who the fuck knows? This guy is like, he's like Yawar, you know, like these guys are like these clowny carry players. And sometimes they are grinding the fuck out of the game, and sometimes they don't play for 6 months. And if you get them in that period where they don't play for 6 months, you're like, I cannot tolerate this guy one more day. If you get them when they're grinding and they're motivated, they're like the best player in the world. So that's the wild card. But in the short term, we're talking about the short term. We're talking about right now. I'm not talking about
TI.
Yeah. Right now, I think Tundra is going to be, you're going to be fucking some motherfuckers up because they got some motivated players right now, and Duracio's going to be motivated, so he's going to be fucking trying, and that's good enough for me.
I have a lot of confidence. I'm not sure about the BZM quite as much. That difference is kind of whatever for me, but I have a lot of confidence in Duracio being an addition. And I talked about this with Quinn and Aiden, and I think Aiden brought up a good point that 33 had already played with, like, of the aggressive carries of the world, the top three, right, easily are Skeeter, Mickey, Duraccio, right? He's played with two of them. All that was left was Duraccio,
and he won
right?
a TI with both of them.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I feel like it just like naturally slots in really, really well.
Yep.
And I feel like as long as, I mean, as long as I guess Duraccio is, happy with the team or whatever, then things should kind of just click. I do foresee them having some immediate success at these various tournaments that they're playing through, these qualifiers are invited to. I do think that they're going to do very well at Dream League, PGL, maybe ESL and Raleigh. We'll see how long their stretch goes, but I would agree with you that I think Tundra is on the up. They're on the up for sure.
All right. Okay.
Wouldn't put them above Falcons, but
you're just a bandwagoner, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I'm saying this team's got some holes right now. They got some holes. Like, I don't think they have the advantages they used to. Now, I do have them third. I
was going to say you have to have them third at this point.
You got to respect them, right? You got to respect the thinkers on this team between the King and AUI, which I still do. The King is always going to be motivated. This guy lives to play Dota. He's going to try hard every fucking time. So they always have that going for them. I think obviously their players are super skilled. They're probably the most consistent team in the world in terms of their floor is the highest for sure. I just wonder where the ceiling's at right now. Like, I think if Tundra and Bepboom are playing at their absolute top, they're slightly better. I think people have been playing against Falcons for a long time now, which is something that's going to work against them, in my opinion, as we go into this next year. People are super familiar with their hero pools. They're very familiar with how they want to play. And Falcons are not a speed demon team, right? They are not a team that's going to run you over 90% of the time. They're a team that's going to farm and choke out the map. And what that means is if you have a good idea of how to draft against them or play against them, if you play better, you can often win, I think. Like, if you're confident that you can out team fight and execute them in the late game, you're not going to really lose before that unless you just get crushed on lanes. And I think if we've seen in the last year, like, their ability to crush teams on lanes has been hit or miss, I think, at a lot of these tournaments. Sometimes they do it, but against these other top teams, I don't think it's much better than like 60-40 at best. And that to me is not enough to skew their favorability to win a tournament in itself. Like, if we're talking about when Gaming Gladiators were in their prime, they were beating teams in lanes like I think 80-20, which is enough to just get you top 3 at LAN, like, on its own, because you're just crushing so many games right out the bat. I don't think Falcons are at that level. So I don't think you can rely on the lane crushing enough. I think people are getting more used to how ATF plays, for example. And while he's still really good, it's not like Timbersaw is the best hero in the game. It's not like Mars is the best hero in the game. His heroes have been slightly nerfed over time. I don't know, man. I just don't think they're like a guaranteed LAN finisher. Obviously, I have them in my top 3. I think they're really good. I think they can win a LAN on any given day for sure. And their floor is super high. So I'm still putting them third, but like, they ain't number one. I think they gotta have to reprove it to me. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I think that's fair. You know who my third is?
Probably fucking Liquid, because
yes,
you're always
it's
fucking
Liquid.
This team is
Dude, like, it's like the most consistent LAN team. These guys just like always are in that spot. Like, you can't not have them in that top 4, top 3 area. Now, maybe it's just like I'm gonna look the fool because Dream League's coming up and they're gonna suck ass on that. And I will definitely say that I have more hesitation about this roster with Saberlight than I do with their previous iterations. That is a very big shift, I felt like, from 33 to Saberlight. They proved at Thailand that they can kind of put it together. And I do think Saberlight steps up on LAN. That is one thing that I do feel like he is a LAN player. So when we talk about these performances, I'm thinking about LAN performances, and I do think he elevates his game in that regard, which probably means they're definitely going to suck ass at Dream League. But for Blast, for ESL1 Raleigh, for PGL Wallachia, I mean, I don't know. Those are like the Blast and PGL Wallachia are like studios, so they're kind of LAN, but no crowd, which I think is really where the pressure is on. And that's usually where the separation occurs the most. I would feel more confident about their performance at ESL1 Raleigh, just because that is, a LAN with a crowd and all that sort of thing. And that's where some players choke and some players step up. And I think Saberlight is a player who steps up his game in front of the crowd. So, I don't know. Like the results just speak for themselves until they start bombing out of tournaments that are not called Dream League. Then you look through the numbers, man. They're just incredibly consistent. I feel like you just can't have a list that doesn't have them in the top 3, top 4.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I put them fourth.
Okay,
I would not put them in the top
there
3 because I don't think they're consistent enough, and I think that team has. I also think they're one of the teams that does better when the bottom half of the pool is as shit as possible. Now let me explain. Because I know where you're going. I'm not saying this in the way of they're feeding off the bad teams and getting wins. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think they're a team that takes a while to warm up on land.
Yeah.
And so if half the pool is shit, which means while they're warming up, they can still win like some of those lower bracket matches. Like we saw at Thailand, some of those were incredibly close series, right?
Yeah.
If some of those teams are 5% better, they get like eliminated in 8th and they don't have that run. So they need some farming time, they got farm up the momentum and the strats. So if the bottom half is worse, it gives them more time on average to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to get more average wins in the group stage because like the bottom teams are feeder teams. They're going to maybe win that extra lower bracket match they need when they drop down. And that goes a really long way for them on land. So,
which is funny because it means Blast's format shouldn't be good for them. And in some way, Dream League should be good for them. It's just like it's group stage after group stage. You get to take a lot of time to figure your shit out,
Yeah,
but
I don't know why their Dream League is just something about it being online or something is just really bad for their team chemistry or discussion or whatever. I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
that's an isolated incident to me. But yeah, I think format wise, it helps when the lower teams in the world are worse on average, and I think that's kind of the case right now. I think the upper half is really strong compared to a lot of previous years, but the lower half is on average weaker. So I think they have that going for them. It extends their average length in lands if they're starting out rough, which we've seen is the case a lot of times. Yeah, I think they're still top 4 or 5 team in the world. They can obviously be the best team in the world, but if I put them in a series tomorrow against Falcons, Tundra, or Betboom, I don't have them favored just in like an isolated series. I think that's pretty fair. It doesn't mean they're not going to win that series. Maybe it's 55-45. I think they have very close margins against all the top teams almost always. But it's like, where are you playing them, right? If you're playing them first round upper bracket, are you playing them lower bracket? Are you playing them grand finals? Are you playing them like it matters so much for this team. I have to just average all of that out. And so, yeah, I put them fourth. A respectable fourth.
Very respectable. I think I have Tundra on my fourth, for all the same reasons you listed. So I think with the next couple teams that we're talking about, this is where the margins are quite thin between all the teams. So, the difference between first and sixth is going to be pretty small in my head. Fifth place. Are we still
starts to get spicy? This is where it starts to get spicy because the first 5 I feel like are kind of the first 4 or 5 are straightforward. Okay, it's about order, but the 5 through 10 are like there's some spicy things you could throw in there, dude. Like I don't fucking know. I had to think about this for a long time.
Okay, I will give my fifth first. Spirit. Obviously a little bit of an unknown, right? But this team has to be in the top 6 of teams, right? Maybe I don't know how their form is right now, right? I haven't watched much of the ESL1 Raleigh qualifiers. I know they're currently in the grand finals, waiting for their opponent. I'm sure they'll qualify. Don't know their form, but You got to give it to him, man. You fucking Yatoro collapse, man. Like you, that duo is never sinking below top 6.
I tend to agree. It's very hard to bet against that team with those two coming back. I also think they have a huge motivation and rest advantage over a lot of other teams, right? Like they're going to come in wanting to smack everybody, wanting to reprove they're the best. They've been resting for the last half a year, which is super valuable in Dota, especially for that team that was grinding it out forever and had a bunch of like inner chemistry problems and whatever, right? Shit adds up.
Yeah, yeah.
They still have Rue, so the team is still different than it was before, which also helps your motivation because it's like something fresh. Nothing against Mira.
Rue is the only part that like for me, I felt like Satanic proved himself. I felt like Malik proved himself. For me, I don't know if Rue proved himself. Now
I think
don't.
he was very consistent. I think
I did not feel bad
off,
about Rue, but I also did not feel like, oh man, this guy really stepped up his game on the Spirit Squad and proved he could deserve a spot.
I think he was starting to pop off a bit more towards the end. He was starting to have better performances on stuff like the Lion, the Bat Rider, just the only initiator. He was doing some work in a lot of those games. I became more impressed with him the later it went on. So I still have very high hopes for him potential wise, and I don't think he has to be some crazy playmaker. I don't think that was Mira's role in that team either. You just need a guy who sets the cores up consistently well and plays team fights well, and I think he can do that to a T. I think it's a good fit. Yeah, I think that team is very good, but I do not have them 5th.
Okay, who's your 5th?
I think there is one more team I would put over them right now. It is the team that Satanic went to. It is Power Vision.
Yeah.
And I think you can't put Power Vision below them right now. I think it's disrespectful, honestly. But I feel like it's almost disrespectful to put them below
I disagree.
Liquid.
I disagree. I feel like Team Spirit, it's disrespectful because you are just going back to a team that like they've one player difference, right? This is
but they haven't played in like 6 months, Austin, and they burnt out the last tournament they played. Like they crashed out. Let's be honest. So you can't just assume they're gonna like come back and destroy it. Now, I will get the Spirit because I think they're very interesting, but I put Power Vision 5th because I do think. Now, I would put them over Liquid if it was the same roster.
Sure. Okay.
Because I think that matchup is actually favorable. I think that's like incredibly close. But since they changed Crystallis out, I don't think they're stronger than Liquid. I think it could be that they find that groove, but I don't know how good a fit as Satanic is going to be for this team. I
don't think it's a good fit. I think it's a bad fit.
I think on paper it does not look great. The one asterisk I have on that is I think Satanic might have more versatility in his game pace than he showed on Spirit. And I say that because I feel like Spirit kind of pigeonholed him to play one style only.
You think it was Spirit that did that, not his
what
own comfort level?
I don't know. I don't know how much of that came from him or how much of it was like Maposhka being like, this is just how we're going to play. So we simplify things and we can build a consistent floor, right? That's often a thing captains will do. I don't know how much of that was like, we want to replicate how we played with Yatoro and we think this is the easiest way to go about it. And they kind of pigeonholed themselves. You know, sometimes like you put on the bumpers so that you can keep yourself in a lane and not do too much shit at once and just like burn out.
Sure.
I don't know. But they obviously they came to that conclusion to some degree. How much it was from Satanic or how much was from Maposhka, I guess we're going to find out. My gut read, though, is that Satanic can play faster than he was playing on Spirit, and that some of that was the team's decision to play like that. I don't think it was that kid going in there and being like, I want to AFK farm for 40 minutes. Good luck.
There was nothing from his play that for me ever suggested that. I never saw that from his
he
play.
Could.
That he wanted to play faster.
Well, I don't know if he wants to, but I think he can.
Okay.
You know, we saw him play like the pubs mid for a month.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched any of his games, but he'll play
I did.
He'll just go brawl. Like he's not a bad spellcaster brawler. He reminds, honestly, dude, you know who he reminds me of? This people are gonna hate this fucking comparison because they're gonna like. I think he's really similar to Arteezy. Really similar. And people are going to hate that because I think people are higher on Satanic than Arteezy, to be honest. Which, at this point in time, maybe that's fair. But I think they're actually very similar players. I think their HP management in team fights is like one of their best skills.
Okay.
I think they are very good on an extremely wide hero pool. Like you can trust them on anything. And I think their laning is quite strong. The downside is I think they're both players where if you let them kind of just AFK farm, they will.
Yeah.
You have to push them to go fight. But when Arteezy got pushed to fight and play like the gyrocopters, the Lycans, like some of these heroes that he used to play back in the day, he's like one of the best fighting carries in the world, honestly. I always thought it was his biggest strength. It just got lost in a lot of the stuff that they ended up doing and where they wanted to go, which no fault against him. It could have worked and it did work well for years. But I see some of that in Satanic and I believe in it.
Okay.
And I think he has a lot more to show than just like the AFK farm Medusa hits Ancients for 40 minutes, go high ground. I don't think that's this kid's only skill set. And so if Paravision can tap into that, it's a way better fit. And then I think the potential, is comparable to what they had going synergy wise with Crystallis. And obviously you're getting like one of the most promising young talents with 10 years ahead of him. Not that you're going to have all 10 of that, but like
No.
he's a valuable asset on your team. You can build around him. So
Well.
I still rate them pretty high. I think the team is still going to play pretty well. I think they have scary players. They have confidence off a big land win. They lose a lot of synergy. They lose some team morale, maybe with the kick, but I don't know. It's a weird kick, honestly, but I still rate them pretty high. I think they're going to be a strong team.
Okay. Well, I mean, as much as I'm gonna naysay the move and everything, I think Pari Vision, I agree. I think they are worse off of this pickup. Maybe they will be better by the time TI rolls around, but I just do not see the fit. I feel like they have shot themselves in the foot when it comes to drafting, when it comes to team composition. I feel like your other players are going to be particularly no one going to be in a worse place. I do think that I will say that Aiden brought up a good point that, like DM is a very aggressive offlaner, and it is nicer to have more of a harder carry to fall back on in that regard. So there is balance. There is some balance to this, right? But I just felt like you already proved that, the previous lineup, you had something. You had something that was cooking. And until Satanic proves to me that he is going to be that aggro carry that can slot in and mix it up and do it like Mickey, do it like Duraccio, I'm just not going to believe in them. But they're
I don't
still a
think he
top
has to be
team, and I'll
that
still put them at
aggressive.
sixth.
Like, I don't think he has to play that fast. If you look at Paravision
Sure.
when they won that tournament, it's not like they were running teams over. They were kind of just playing the push game and hitting like a 30 to 50-minute timing. And Crystallis he's an aggressive carry, but he wasn't like running people over in a lot of those games. They had an occasional game where he did it with Razor or something, right? And they won in like 15 minutes. But
Yeah.
a lot of those
I
games
think some
were
of that
like
was just kind of like the
grinding it out.
draft concept that they kind of came up with.
Yeah, maybe. But
But I
then
do
maybe
think
they thought they
before
were
that
Flash in the Pan.
they were a bit more aggressive,
Maybe they thought they were too one-dimensional, right?
Sure.
Maybe this pickup gives you more versatility down the road. You're not as dependent on Crystallis' hero pool. You have more ways to win the game. You can go later. You can try and play aggressive through DM. On paper, I agree the fit looks weird, but I don't know. Part of me just has some gut read that the fit's gonna be better than we think. So I still have them fifth. Otherwise, I would rate them way lower, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they still have a lot to prove.
Is your sixth Spirit? Is our top six going to be the exact same? Like,
My
same
six
top
is
six
Spirit,
teams?
yes.
Yeah.
This was close though, honestly. I do not want to rate them too highly right now.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna. Okay, so honestly, I would have rated them even lower because I think short term, I have no faith they're gonna just be able to come back and just crush everybody. But the one factor is Yatoro has been grinding the fuck out of pubs, and he's like
Yes.
highest MMR in the world.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to bet
really
against
didn't
him.
take much of a break.
No.
And Collapse did his own grinding where he
Yeah,
just went
so-
to the gym, apparently.
I don't know. Like when Yatoro's cooking, it's pretty hard to bet against this team.
Yep.
And number two, dude, the meta is so much better for them than it was at the previous TI. That TI was a miserable meta for them. Like you had like these random saving fives that aren't Maposhka's bread and butter. You had the carry hero pool that was all fast bullshit that Yatoro doesn't want to play, right? Like this guy was playing Drow at the last TI. Like, what the fuck is going on? But now Drow's like an actual pick. Like you can pick Drow and play a Drow game, right? You can pick PA, and it's not that PA is broken, but like you can play it. You're not going to get run over.
Yeah, PA doesn't
That's
feel
the
too
biggest
bad
thing.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're seeing Spectre, right? We saw
Dude,
Mickey
Spectre
play
is
Spectre.
crushing. Spectre
Yeah, the
is
hero's strong as
crushing
fuck.
right now. Jeez.
This Bloodthorn shit is strong as fuck. So
Yeah.
if you look at the heroes that are in the meta, there are a lot of carries that Yatoro has shined with in the past, and there are a lot of carries that play this slower style game that are not like they're really susceptible to getting run over. But who is running people over? Seems like that meta is disappearing. The aura meta is gone, right? Yatoro's back, baby. If the if the auras are gone, that guy is gonna absolutely light some people up because
I mean, so is
like,
Collapse, right? He no longer
Yeah, for
has
sure.
to, like, there isn't this incentive for him to play any
Exactly.
aura player, so he can play some of these, initiators and such
Yep.
instead.
So this is where I was very torn with rating this team because I cannot rate them too highly because we have seen almost no games from them against the top Elo teams in the world, and they could just be behind in terms of gameplay. But like, I don't think you can rate them lower because the meta has to be fucking good for this team. I just refuse to believe this meta isn't one of the better ones for them in like a year and a half or 2 years. It looks so good. And I think when the meta is good for their two side laners, the team's going to be good, right? It's just that simple.
So for me, right, that was our top 6. I feel like those are all the teams that could win the tournament. And I think every team after this is not a team that sure, they have some really small percent chance to be able to win the tournament, but I really don't have them in the running to win. Right? They do. It's like a dark horse for me. Right?
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
these are going to be consistent performances that I think, they're going to be in the top 8. So
Yeah.
you said it was really close between this team. For me, it's a bit of a drop off from here. Who is close to Spirit in your mind?
I mean, my 7 is Heroic.
Okay. Wait.
South Americans.
Can I guess so we're 7, 8, 9. Is your next, can I ask you if your next 3 is the combination of Heroic, your Cult Bros, and Avalos?
No.
Really? Okay. All right.
I've Heroic 7. I think Whisper going back to SA team, very good because I think the language barrier was really tough for that guy. And just his style of gameplay. I don't think he's that well suited for European teams, to be honest. He needs these like really aggressive, chaotic teammates, like these Schofields of the world. And I think he will find that on Heroic. I think.
You think he finds that with Yuma? Right, because that's their other pickup, and that's the carry that you're talking about.
I'm not sure. He's kind of the one that stands out, but that team has a history of like making like one European guy work. So who the fuck knows?
Okay.
I just think that team looks pretty strong on paper. Like if you look at, outside of Yuma, if you look at the rest of them, I think they're going to gel well. I think they're going to play well together. They're more uniform in terms of communication and ideas. And yeah, you have like this one odd guy out, but it's if you're one odd guy out's the carry, that's the easiest to work with, in my opinion. Because he just has to rice and like, come and kill people. Like all the other shit has to be a lot better communications wise. So I actually rate this team pretty high. I think they're gonna be pretty strong. I think it might eventually come to a position where they kick Yuma for like an SA carry. But honestly, I could see them kick him and bring Parker back in in like 6 months. I don't want to say
like,
that.
bro, the Divine Lava's God. It's fine.
Honestly,
you can come back.
Honestly, I could see them do that because then you get a full SA team. Then you fix communication stuff, language stuff, cultural stuff.
I mean, Yuma's Nicaraguan, right? Like we know he grew up in.
Yeah, so maybe it's not as big an issue, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how integrated he is.
Yeah, it's true. I forgot about that aspect, but yeah, I mean, I think he's a great player. I think he'll do well. I could just also see that being around. But either way, I think the core that they have with their support duo being one of the better ones I've seen out of SA in a long time. You bring Whisper back, who is still a tremendous offlaner if you can utilize him, and you're gonna be doing some pretty good stuff. So I have them as one of those like outlier region teams. I don't have a lot of faith in the other SA teams right now, but I think if you put them on land against a lot of these European teams, they're gonna take games off them. Right, they're gonna win some series. So yeah, I have them 7. Like they're probably not winning a land in the short term, but like I don't think you can rate a lot of other teams higher than them.
Okay. I think it's time to start putting some respect on Avalos's name. All right. Like, I
knew that
know
was
people
coming.
look at this squad and they're just like, oh, they're just like a tier 2 squad, like, oh, hey, congratulations, you made a land. Good job, like, and that's where the story ends, sort of thing. But like, I think these guys have more than just the hey, congrats, you made a land, right? These guys are putting in some work in these qualifiers. They're very often the best team in these qualifiers. They're going through Western Europe. They're playing against all these European teams. We just listed our top 6. It's Europe, 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 all the way through, right? They're in that fucking mix, right? So they're having to do this grind against all these top tier teams. I think it's time to start putting some respect on their name a little bit. I'm not expecting them to win a tournament, but I am expecting some top 8 performances out of them, pretty consistently. I think that they are going to put up good fight against pretty much anybody. I think you put them against almost anybody in the scene right now, and I'm expecting that series to be close. Right, I'm not expecting more than like a 40-60 matchup against anybody. Right, I don't think they're ever that much the underdogs.
I think that's fair. I put them 9th.
Okay. So
because I pretty much agree with that. I think, but my issue with them is I just think their margin of favorability is just like a little lower against everybody. Like it's not bad against any of the top teams, but it's always, I think they're just like the ultimate 45-55 team against everybody. You
okay.
know? They're like the ultimate like game split. Like they'll just split games, but they'll always lose the third by a slight amount in my mind until they prove a little bit more. I think that team has a lot of potential. They have a lot of synergy. They got something going on, obviously. Something's working for them, right?
Yeah.
But I think it takes time to break into that upper echelon, and they just need time. They need a lot of time. And of course, I'm ranking these teams like today. I'm not ranking them for a year from now. So I think they still have a lot more to grow. So I put them 9th. I'm a little probably lower on them than you are, but they are European teams. So like, they're probably just going to crush like anybody who's not European.
Okay. Who beat them out then for the 8th slot? Are you finally going to China? No.
China did not even make a single slot on
China didn't make the top 10.
Done,
oh no,
they're fucking done. That region is absolutely toasted. You go look at these rosters, they're like, I can't even tell if these are meme streamer stacks or not, dude. They're like, you got like a dude coming back from a retirement run for like 8th round. You got some other guy doing it for like stream sponsorships. You got like a support who didn't even want to play, but he's just doing it because like fuck it, no, I'm not even gonna rate these Chinese teams until they like do something serious. Because to me, it's just they're just fucking around. They're just like reforming these rosters to get paid, or I don't know what the fuck they're doing, honestly.
Okay. Who beat them out? That isn't on my radar.
I'll tell you who beat them
Navi?
out. A team you're vastly underrating, Austin, that you have forgotten about. That is maybe going to come back and surprise some people this year. It's your boys, Gaming Gladiators, in the 8th fucking spot. Because again, European team, they're going to have good competition all year. They're going to have good training mechanisms. I don't think you can count this team out completely. Like, yeah, they're kind of fucked right now. Yeah, the fit with Watson looks really weird. Yeah, the meta is really bad for them. Yeah, the hero pools are all over the place. Yeah, they kind of look like they don't know what they're doing. Like, the morale's low. They just came off a lot of wins, so the motivation's probably a little harder to grasp. They're probably not playing as many pubs as they used to. They're not like the highest ranked team in the world anymore. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's all these things. but when it comes down to it, on LAN, they have been there before. They have proved themselves, and they don't choke. And they have good training mechanisms. And they're a smart team, honestly. They're a smart team. They have smart players who know how to figure shit out, know how to solve problems, know how to work through stuff. So if any of those factors I listed, there's like 20, but if any of those factors shift back into their favor by like a couple percentage points, right? They're not in that bad a position. Now I'm putting them 8th. Like I'm not putting them very high. I think they're in a really rough spot. But if you think about any other team that I haven't listed going up against them, there's no way you can tell me that they're not like favored.
So I just want to point out to you have Avalos below them at 9th. Is that correct? Okay. So that we are going to get some immediate feedback on this. Western European qualifier for Raleigh is about to start.
Yeah.
And the obvious top 3 teams are Tundra, Avalos, Gaming Gladiators. Now there are some Navi juniors, OGs, those goes, but I think it's pretty clear there's a top 3. So one of us is going to be proven right, and one of us is going to be proven wrong real quickly.
I mean,
Or maybe we'll both be
these are
wrong and like
averaged
Tundra
out. You
shits
know,
the bed, but
these are averaged out. But yeah, I don't think they're that bad. Honestly, I don't think they're that like they're.
Okay.
The thing is, they're really bad. They look really bad because it's all relative to where they were before, which was like literally the best team in the world for 2 years.
Yeah.
So the second that they start losing to anybody at all, it's just the drop off. You can only go down, right? And it's severe. So I think that's part of it too. But that's also a factor that hurts them is like mentality wise, it's hard to go from being the best team in the world for 2 years to, oh, we're losing to dog shit. Like, what the fuck is happening? You know? And then you start to doubt yourself and you're stuck in that. So yeah, it does hurt them. But I think they're in the stabilization period. Okay.
Okay.
You know, they were at the up, they fucking plummeted, they bottomed out, and now they're at a chance to stabilize and regroup and grow for the rest of the year. And I think if you look at the players on the roster, they're still very good. The meta is really bad for them, though. That's my issue. But meta's changed, man. Meta's changed. You know, a month from now, Valve patches some shit. They're like, oh, mechanism is 60 gold. And it's just like, you know, now all of a sudden it's fucking over, right? Helm of Iron Will, 100 gold less. And suddenly, like, Ace is the best carry, offlaner to carry in the world. Like, Lone Druid gets buffed. Who the fuck knows, right? There's so many factors in a meta. I think you have to average that potential out. And so you can't just say game and shit because the meta is never going to be good for them again. Like, that's the mistake people made against Liquid and they won TI. So I don't think you can rate this team too much lower. Man. Okay. They still have a pedigree. They have a lot of wins under the belt. That counts for a
lot. Well, I feel like they haven't proven it to me yet, which means I have Heroic over them at 8th, but I will put them 9th.
Okay. Fair enough.
Who is your 9th team?
Who's my 9th?
Because I'll just tell you right now.
I put Avalis 9th. I put
Avalis 9th. Okay. So my 10th, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I don't know which one of the Chinese teams to call.
I'll tell you, none of them.
It's the Yakult Brothers Extreme Tide Belt. Like, one of them is going to be in that 10th place spot. I don't know which one, but like, surely one of them is going to rise to this hop and be somewhat competitive.
No, I don't think so.
Who's going to be more competitive than one of the Chinese teams?
Aurora. I have as 10th.
Okay. All right.
I gotta give a nod to the C team. I think I think that's one of these sleeper teams where, like, are they one of the best teams in the world right now? No. But if you look at that roster, they're gonna be playing in Dream League. If you look at the players, they got Abed, man. Like, come on. They got Abed, they got Jabs, they got Q. Like, this team cannot be that bad. And I refuse
but wasn't your entire argument against Southeast Asia that it was doing the North American wash cycle?
Yeah, but this is the group the same names,
together, and now you're putting respect on those names. You're being like, oh, but they have these
this
guys
team actually
that you've seen
together.
Forever.
This team actually stuck together. So the core has been together for like 3 years now, and I think they're the exception. I think Paulos is an interesting pull-in. He's an explosive player, super highs, super lows. I don't know how that's going to work, but I have faith in Abed to at least bring the floor up like decently for this team. Like, he's a good player to play around and build around. Honestly, people are still sleeping on that guy, and I cannot on paper rate one of these Chinese teams higher than Aurora. Like, it's just, you can't do it, Austin. You can't fucking do it. There's no way. You look at these Chinese rosters, like these rosters change every
the same reason it's good. The meta is good for Spirit is the same reason it's going to be good for Ame.
Dude, Ame is washed. I'm going to say it. Like, I'm not afraid to say it. This guy is completely washed. I'm going to get so much hate for this. But, like, somebody who disagrees with, like, I'm not saying he can't unwash himself, but at the current point in time,
he's got to put himself in the wash cycle.
Go show me a game this guy has played from, like, the last 3 months. I don't see it, man. I don't see the, like, spark and motivation. I just see, like, solid carry. That's it. That's all I see. I don't see the Ame of old, who is the best carry player in the world. I don't see him making the magic happen in the fights. Maybe it's a roster thing. I'm not putting it on him, but, like, the rosters on these Chinese teams have changed literally every month for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
They just are. There's no way you can have a consistent product with that. And Jinkyu is gone. So you're fucking done. Like, the second that if Jinkyu were on one of these teams, I would put them in the top 10. But
okay. Can I ask you, of the three?
I'm sorry. He's the best player in China, and he's not playing. Something's fucking wrong.
Are there any Chinese teams in the next power ranking, the TI power ranking?
No, no.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Which of the three is going to do the best? Do you think when it comes TI
I
comes
mean,
rolling around?
whatever team picks up Q in like 2 months. That's honestly, that's who's going to do the best. I'm not even memeing. I think he'll come back at some point. Whatever team gets him will do the best.
Okay,
That's it.
that's fair. That's fair.
Now there is also this like weird. There's a stack with when I was looking at this, like this stack with Y Faith Beyond.
Yeah, Tidebound. I said there was 3 teams, right? You
Yeah,
Cold Brothers, Extreme, Tidebound, right?
yeah. That one I have the most faith in consistency wise, but some of those
Okay.
guys still have to like reprove themselves, right? Faith Beyond didn't have like a great year returning, but he's incredibly smart, hardworking dude, and I have faith he can get back to a really good position. That team I have some faith in terms of like consistency, but I don't think they're really at any of these tournaments, are they?
They qualified for one of them. I don't remember which one, but the Dream League, they were in the upper bracket. They lost to Cold Brothers
Yeah.
and then to Extreme. So they had back-to-back losses there. They might be going to Wallachia. Yeah, they're going to Wallachia. Wallachia is the qualifier that they won out against. And China, I think, is already no, some other region that's already started. So ESL1 Raleigh Chinese qualifier hasn't started yet. So we'll see.
So that team I'm interested in seeing because I do think that Wings core is still they're still interesting players. They're still very good. They have very smart dudes. To me, they're like in that gaming block of like, can they return to form? Right, really smart, talented players, but at the current point in time, I'm not ranking them highly at all, and I don't think they would do that. They're very humble dudes too. They know where they are. It's just going to take some work and returning to form. I think that team is the most interesting Chinese team to me, but they haven't been able to win out in the qualifiers that well. So it's looking rough, man. I will say, like, if the Occults go to LAN and I'm sure they'll take some games and like series off some teams. It's not like they're complete garbage stack. I'm not saying that, but like, we got to be realistic here, man. We're talking about like winning lands or getting top 3. It's not happening for these Chinese rosters right now. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a Southeast Asian team. I have a Chinese team. At least we have a very small amount of regional diversity in our power
things are
rankings.
fucking rough when I'm putting the C team over you. Like, things are fucking rough. I'm not. I don't want to have to. I got nothing against Aurora. I like them, but they're not in great form right now either. But like, man, this Chinese scene is
okay.
It's in a rough spot, brother. It's in a rough spot.
So for the TI power ranking, is it still consisting of the same teams? Is there anybody that you think that is outside of this top 10 right now, but is going to be in the top 10 at TI?
It is not the exact same for me. I have 2 different teams. 8 of them are the same. 2 of them.
Okay.
Now the TI ranking
OG?
for me is
like
OG is one of them.
OG
this
is
in my
them.
mind. Okay. What chance does this team have to win TI or get top 3 at TI? Nothing else really matters. Like I am ranking them by a deep TI run.
Okay. So you're kind of playing you're okay with the wildly different OG may not even qualify for TI.
Yeah, exactly. Who fucking knows?
But you're saying they have a better shot at winning TI than many other teams.
Or I'd say top 3 is fair. Like who has a higher chance of getting top 3 at TI, right?
Okay.
And I think, like, for example, I think OG has a higher chance of getting top 3 at TI than
Avalos.
Yes.
I think that's fair.
I think it's
I think Avalos is way more likely to make TI.
Yes,
and be in top 8, but
I agree with
top 3. Okay. All right.
This is why this is a different power ranking, because it's not.
Yeah, this criteria is like
it's who's experienced or who's choking or what. Like
this criteria is incredibly inflammatory because it's just it's playing off of just the massive swings that
the thing is. It still ends up being a lot of the same teams, but the order's different for me, and I have 2 extra teams in there because I think you do have to put some respect on these like experienced guys. I think OG I have at 9th, which is like, honestly, OG I think is pretty close to being in the top 10 in general. I don't think that team's that bad. They showed some stuff in the last qualifier, right, with some of their recent series.
Yeah.
They got a lot better really fast. I would not underrate that team too much. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy short term, but like give him a year with Seb if he's still on that team. The guy still grinds the fuck out of games. He's still a very smart dude. Is he outdated a little bit in terms of he doesn't have the advantages he had as an offlaner 4 years ago? Yeah, but he's still a good player. He's still a good leader. And if you can get a team that believes in him and listens to him, then I mean that goes a decent way at TI. You know, like you can knock out some of these teams that are less experienced or are choking or whatever. So it's
Okay,
OG at TI. Man.
okay, who's 10th though?
You're gonna hate this one, dude. I really thought about this. I swear, and I think the only logical conclusion in terms of chance to be top 3 is Nigma Galaxy.
No fucking way.
I think it has to be. You have to, bro. You have to at least put them in the top 10.
Oh my god!
If they make it, and okay, no, think about this.
Okay.
Think about them at Thailand. Okay,
Yeah.
they were not that bad at Thailand,
No, they weren't.
and they still had a lot of problems. Like you're watching their games, you can tell they still have a lot of like drafting shit and gameplay shit, and they were not like that good. But you could kind of also see the, like glimpses of the magic, like the miracle magic, you know, like when he's still cooking and Sumail was cooking people on lane. It was like, oh shit, like maybe they can actually make a run here and kind of beat anybody, you know. And they had a lot of health problems at that tournament and other shit going on. Miracle sick, fucking shit's blowing up. Like I don't fucking know, you know. But I'm telling you, dude, if that team makes the TI and they start to like figure some shit out, I could see it, dude. And I actually think that run to a top 3 is somehow higher than I don't know what other team I like put over that. Like I actually think it's higher. The miracle run. I'm telling you, it's like I'm not saying the percent is high. I think it's like
you think
it's like
you're saying it's like a less than 5% chance.
No, it's like less than 1.
It's less than 1%.
Yes.
It's 0.5% a chance to get there. Yeah. But you think like who did you drop out of your top 10?
I mean, it's Avalos, right?
That's you think Avalos has a 0.3% chance to make top 3, and you think Nigma has 0.5%.
I mean, so the thing is, Avalos probably has a higher percentage because their chances to go to TI are so much higher.
Yeah.
That if you like waited,
I don't believe TI is going to have a meta qualifier.
I'm not playing that game. I'm saying, ignoring that shit, like we end up at TI, here's the teams at TI. Who has a better shot to make top 3? I legit think Enigma Galaxy is a better shot to make top 3 than Avalos. I think the road for Avalos to make top 3 at this point in time, not a year from now, but at this point in time, or like, you know, at this next TI it's tough, I think, because I don't know if they have the ceiling that's high enough to beat all those other top teams, right? And that's what you have to do. Whereas Enigma's ceiling is like, it's unknown, bro. It's heart's unknown. You know what I'm saying? Like
maybe it is known though. Maybe it is known.
No,
maybe
I'm telling you.
Maybe you can't just, you know, go back in time 10 years, you know, and be able to claim the same.
You know what, Austin? In a year from now, when Enigma somehow makes it, and they get like top 6, and we have to cast one of their games for that upper bracket top 3, you are going to be sweating your fucking balls off so hard. In that
I'm not. I won't care. I'm not going to care because I agree. I will just say I agree with many of the things that you said. Right? I don't. Do you remember that the last LAN before Thailand that Nigma went to? That one where they got like invited to, and then like they actually had a run there, right? Yeah. They had a run there. They are good LAN players. If you could guarantee somehow to be able to put them on LAN and not just at TI, right? But in front of a crowd, I do like have more faith in them than maybe other teams that they would be able to do that.
That's all I'm saying, Austin.
But I'm just saying, like, first of all, you're saying like you have to. You're saying like, oh, they're one of the teams at TI, right? In this idea,
we're ignoring right? The ability to get to.
But TI doesn't even go to like stadium until the final 3 days. You know,
it's a miracle run, Austin. It's a miracle run.
Like if it was the old TI where it was just like every team is guaranteed a stage performance, then like I could kind of suspend reality in disbelief and go along with you in this ride. But it's the fact that they don't get that anymore. That's not how TI goes anymore. It's 3 days. You have to make top 6 to be able to get to playing in front of a crowd.
Fair opinion, but I disagree with you. So I will maintain them.
All right. I will put Tidebound because I agree with you. That was the team that, of the 3 teams who I think by TI, I don't know who's the stronger of the 3 right now. But for me, it's the AME team or it's Tidebound. It's Yakult or Tidebound. And I think Tidebound is more likely to get all their shit together and have as you said, if the criteria is top 3 at TI, then that's a team I could see making top 3 at TI. So
that's fair.
I will put them at 10. I will put Heroic at 9th. Top 6, totally possible for this team. I just don't see them ever making it to top 3. I think their chances of going that far at TI are pretty unlikely. Next, I would have Avalus. Again, very likely, I feel like if you put them at TI, they have a chance against any team there. But do they have an advantage against anybody? Hard to say.
Not Enigma Galaxy. Not Enigma Galaxy, bro. Miracles. If this guy doesn't play Carry Shaker, like they would have maybe gotten top 3. I'm telling you, it's like.
Okay, that's my 8, 9, 10. Who's your 8th?
My 8th was Heroic.
Okay,
I think is a pretty fair spot for them. I put Power Vision at 7.
Power Vision at 7. Okay.
Yeah, so they actually dropped 2 spots from my current power ranking at TI. I think they will have a lot to prove before I'm confident in them making a deep TI run.
Yes.
So I think that's a very different situation.
I will agree with that. I would also put them. Is that your 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting them as my 6th then. So who's your 6th?
My 6 is Gaiman.
Yep. I also have Gaiman. That's literally what I'm thinking. Is just like, do I put Gaiman over Power Vision? I do. Yeah.
And I think Gaiman is actually one of the more interesting ones here because TI is a long way away. There's a lot of patches that could come out before then. And if they hit one that starts working for them or they get some synergy with Watson going, like they're a very scary TI team. Even if they're not in great form. Like that last TI that they got second at, they were not in great form at that TI, right? And they still crushed a lot of teams in that lower bracket. So they're just like they're like the choke slayers, all these other teams are choking. They're just going to slay you. So I actually think their TI probability is a really wide range. Like you could put them almost anywhere and it might be reasonable. So I just put them in the middle.
How far up is OG?
No, OG was my 9. They
okay. Sorry. All right.
I ain't putting them.
Enigma, so you go over your list. Enigma Galaxy, OG,
Enigma, OG, Heroic, Power Vision, Gaiman.
Oh, that's right. You have Avalus off the list entirely.
That's right.
Okay.
I got to free up that space from. The more we talk through this, the more I regret it. But I'll stick with it.
So we're on 5.
Though? Yeah, who's your
5th? So my 6th is Gaiman, and then my 5th is BetBoom. I thought about putting Gaiman over BetBoom.
What?
You think they're gonna go?
What 5th for a top 3? If your only issue with BetBoom is they choke like for the first, your consistency in like the top 3 or to be high at TI should be like way higher than 5th.
Okay. When we're talking about top 3, I think it's kind of weird because I feel like as the higher up you go on this list, I feel like in some ways it goes from like the bottom of the list is more towards top 3, but like the higher on the list should be more about like chances to win. You want to
weight
TI,
it more to 1. That's fine. You can do that. You can weight it more to 1.
And I think BetBoom is like maybe they have a better chance of making top 3 than somebody else, but I think they have a worse chance of winning TI. So BetBoom 5th.
That's disgusting, but I'll allow it. You're gonna hate my fucking 5th though.
Is it Liquid?
It's Liquid.
Yeah.
Middle of the pack again. I dropped them 1 place. I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I just don't see a repeat, dude. I don't see a repeat. I think there was way too much shit that aligned for them at this last one. And if they need that much to align, the chances of repeat I think are thin. I think they are still a very scary team to play in TI because it's usually a longer LAN. And
Yeah.
I think they have pretty good matchups against European teams. But it's a big meta question. It's a big repeat question. It's a big motivation after you win. For those guys, that was a really long journey of like 9-10 years to get there, right? And they got there. And that's like a pressure valve being released. And now do you have the same hunger and drive to do it again? Some players do, some don't. Some think you do, and you end up not having it right by the end of the year. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you think you don't, and you refined it. I'm not doubting any of those guys. It's just like it happens to everybody. I just don't know where they're going to be. So I don't know. I just can't put them higher than that. Honestly, I just think the chances of a repeat they're just not great unless the meta really shifts back towards like the fast laning stuff.
Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Who's 4?
I put Falcons fourth.
Damn, you are a Falcons hater. Holy.
I mean, I'm not a hater, dude. I'm not a
Dude,
hater.
you
but
had
like,
them. What was you had them on 4th originally? They just
I had
stayed
third.
4th.
I had third.
Third, and they went
Yeah.
down for TI.
Yeah, I actually
That's
dropped them one.
crazy.
I mean, I'm actually not that big on this team at TI. I'm really not. I actually think it's their weakness. I've talked about this before. The ATF's performances at the TIs he's played at have not been as dominating as they are in the rest of the seasons. It's just how it's been. I think he's the best offlaner in the world in the regular season, but when it comes to TI, man, that's not the case. Like at what TI was he the best offlaner when he was playing?
Okay, but he's usually top 3.
Sure. Yeah, he's a tremendous player. He's going to be good. I just think it's like every TI that team plays at, this last TI they got 4th, right?
Yeah.
They go in and they are always going to beat the lower teams. Like they're always going to be a top 6 team at TI. I never doubt that. But at some point they get in these series against one of these other teams and it's like this weird stalemate series, that goes to 3 games with like 60-minute games and it's fucking grindy and weird and I feel like they don't pull it out. Like they lose by some crazy small margin. I don't know what it is, but I just have that gut feeling. So I put them forth because I don't know, man. I don't see the repeat happening. I think a lot of that Tundra win, I'm not giving credit to 33, but I think 33 is a tremendous TI player because of the pressure he puts on you. And I think ATF's pressure is not the same unless his hero pool is scaling into the ultra late.
Okay.
Because I think the laning pressure falls off the farther you go into TI. That guy applies pressure in 2 ways. It's like the laning and the scale. But his scaling's gone because like these heroes like Timbersaw and Mars, like when he came into the scene, he was winning those lands and stuff. He was going ultra laking with Mars, Ags, and shit like that. Right. Unkillable 30 and 0 Timbersaw.
Yeah.
You can beat these heroes in the late now. I don't think it's 100% the same. So I think that's when they start to run into trouble. You get in these late series, late in the tournament, where you go up against some other team. They can match you in the late game, stall the game, drag it out, and suddenly you're like playing these 60-minute fights and they're just chaotic as fuck. And I feel like those are always coin tosses. They can always win those. They've won a lot of them, but at TI, it's not broken their way. So I don't know. I'm just going off what I see, man. I'm just going off what I see.
Okay. I have Tundra as 4th. I think a lot of things have gone their way. 4th is still a very respectable spot. They kind of stay where they're at. Where, my read of them right now and the read of them for a TI. Maybe I'm disrespecting 33 a bit, but I just, this matchup with Iracho, it's yet to prove itself. So
you're absolutely disrespecting. I put Tundra 3rd.
I mean, listen. I got a reason for this. He leaves Liquid to put together his squad, right? And his squad, and the reason that he put together this team, his buddy Nightfall, that falls apart already. It was a couple months. They didn't even make it the halfway point of the season,
Yeah, that's a little suspicious.
That's concerning to me. Like, I don't know what's going on with that team atmosphere, but the fact that fell apart that quickly, like his whole motivation to leave Liquid, I don't know. That's just, that whole situation just seems kind of weird to me. So 4th.
Yeah, that's true. But they pulled the trigger fast, so I kind of respect that. Like,
yeah,
they didn't drag it out. If they felt like someone was wrong, just fucking move on.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of time to get whatever they have working. I put them third. I think that team's they're going to be strong. Like if you watched what happened last TI, they formed that team last minute, basically pulled socks off the couch, right, as a stand-in. Pure joined that team like a couple months before, and they still got top 3 and looked like a threat at that tournament.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was the support gameplay. That support duo is crazy in those clutch games, dude. Like,
yeah, they are.
You had
They
33 on top of that. That's where I go back to this team. Like at TI, I almost don't even give a fuck who their 1 and 2 are. Like I'm almost going to put that team top 3 based on their 3, 4, and 5, regardless of who the 1 and 2 are.
Which is the same reason why I have Liquid at third, right? I like they also stay in their spot because I think that my concern over Saberlight is balanced out by the fact that my faith in Mickey has never been higher, man. Like this guy was underrated as a carry this entire time, and he goes into this new season, he adopts this captain role, and he fucking kicked ass at Thailand, man.
Yeah, he did.
Like he absolutely destroyed. He was the best carry there, right? Like he was
He's
destroying.
probably the best player at that land, to be honest.
Yeah, like and so it really feels like he has taken on that captain role and he has stepped into it. Like he hasn't diminished as a player, which I think would be the obvious concern if you're taking on the captain role, right?
Yeah.
So I think that if he is playing with confidence and he's kicking ass, then he's probably going to be leading with confidence, right? We've heard how much like we hear the comms sometimes from the teams, and he is obviously making a ton of those calls. So I think I have faith that as long as he's doing well, and you know that 1-2 of like Mickey Nisha, like can't really say no to it. So
I think that's fair. I think it's rare that you have tournaments where the clear MVP is not on the winning team.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of them for me. Like I think Mickey was actually the MVP of that tournament. Not to diss the Power Vision guys. I think that Power Vision was the best team at that tournament, but none of their players individually had a event stand out more than Mickey did relative to like the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
Like Mickey absolutely torched that event and carried a lot of those games for Liquid. They do not get nearly as far if he does not overperform in a lot of those on a huge array of heroes and playstyles. So that was one of the best tournaments I've ever seen him play, honestly. So I will give you that if he can maintain that, that's a huge factor for them. But how much can you maintain that? I don't know, Austin.
All right. Did you give your third?
My third was Tundra.
I think they are okay.
A very high probability to do well, but they're not my favorite to win TI.
Okay. Falcons.
There's only 2 teams left, Austin. There's only 2
Falcons
slots.
are my number 2.
Oh my God.
They take a step down from first place because I do agree. But I agree with many of the things that you're saying that like, yeah, at TI, these finals usually, but the problem is these last 2 years, they have gone into these events, the most dominant team, right? And we've seen time and time again that it just is never good. It's never good to be the most dominant team. And I think Falcons has way more competition now, right? I think the field is a lot more even between the top 6 teams. And I don't think Falcons is going to be the team that everybody's like, oh, you got to look out for those guys. I think that's going to be a lot more spread apart. And I think something about that will counterbalance, their previous problems at these Riyadh TI situations. TI mostly.
So you're saying they're going to do better because they're going to do worse?
And no, I would say that they're not necessarily going to do worse, but I think the competition is higher.
So they're going to do worse relative
They're going
to
to do as good as they did last year, but everybody else is going to be pushing them more, right? They're actually going to not get first place and just be guaranteed first place, which is what it felt like for some of those tournaments last year. It felt like sometimes that it was just like, all right, well, who's going to make it to the grand finals to face Falcons?
That's definitely true.
Like that Dream League run where they went through the lower bracket recently, it felt like it was just like, oh, I just like, they're in the lower bracket. They're playing like their 3rd, 4th place matchup or whatever. I'm just like, these guys are going to the finals.
Yeah. I could see that. Maybe they're going to find some more motivation or be forced to fix more of their problems going into TI than they have previous years.
Okay.
I could buy that argument. I wouldn't put them that high because I still think they have some hurdles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could buy that. I think that's fair.
So who are the 2 teams left for you? Because that leaves Spirit as my number 1. Who are your last 2?
Spirit and Bet Boom.
Did we both put Spirit number 1?
I don't know, Austin. Did we? The
I
Spirit
did.
return?
I put Spirit number 1.
Why did you put Spirit number 1?
I put Spirit number 1. And this is my entire, like, sometimes you just got to keep it simple, all right? Yotaro, he wants to be the fucking GOAT, right? He wants to be the GOAT. There's some players out there that, like, they just get that crown put on them, and they accept it and they wear it, but they didn't go out and fucking try and fucking get that title. I think Yotaro, he wants that fucking title, right? This guy, he gets a little tired, doesn't want to like play competitive as much. He takes a break, right? All of a sudden, new fucking young kid, hot shot. Oh my God, this is the generational player. Fucking Yotaro was supposed to be the generational player. He's the generational carry. What, there's a fucking new generation out here? Fucking Satanic's coming out of nowhere. People are like, oh, this guy's the shit. His fucking manager's calling him up. Bro, this kid is hot shit. Dude, he's kicking ass right now. If you don't get back on the team, we are all inning on him. Fucking Yotaro, his fucking competitive brain, his fucking want for legacy. He's like, nah, that's my fucking spot on this team. He's fucking grinding out these pubs. He takes back his spot from Satanic. He wants to be the GOAT. And in order to be the GOAT, you got to get 3. In TI, there are players who have gotten it twice. You got to get it 3 if you want to be able to have the fucking the GOAT legacy. If you want to have that argument, got to get those rings. And I think Yotoro's coming for it.
That was quite a speech. I respect that. I have an applause track for that resounding speech in Yotoro's faith.
Okay.
Here's the issue, Austin.
There's no fucking way you put Bedboom number 1.
Listen to me, Austin. Listen.
Okay.
The suspense is pretty hype, right? These guys haven't played competitive in like 6 months. Is there enough time to get back into form? And even if you do, Austin, even if you do get back into form, you're going to have to take down a lot of other top dogs. Like, they're not going to be the untouchable dominant team that they were in the past. I refuse to believe that, even if they win. There's a lot stiffer competition that they haven't been practicing against in a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Collapse has been at the gym. Who the fuck knows what that means? Like, maybe his fucking biceps going to be so large he's going to crush his mouse or something. Like, I don't fucking know. There's a lot of unknowns. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of unknowns, Austin. And meanwhile, you got this Betboom squad. A lot of knowns for me. A lot of knowns. Like, you're talking about a generational carry trying to replace a young upcoming kid. What the fuck is Pure to you? This guy's not generational carry in the making? Like, who would you take? Would you take Pure or would you take Yotaro? You're probably going to take Yotaro.
I would take Yotaro.
Yeah, but it's
but would I take Pure or would I take Satanic? I would take Pure.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think these margins are a lot closer than people think. Now, when I sat down and I end up with these 2 teams in my top 2, to me, the one thing that matters is what I thought, like, there's no way I can't rate Spirit in the top 3 because Yotoro's back. He's best player in the fucking world, elo-wise or whatever. Collapse is back. I refuse to believe these 2 guys are not still in their primes. They're young. It's not like they're like 35 like Seb. They don't have like kids or some shit yet, right? There's no like child support bills. They're still in their prime. They're still grinding. They have some drive to win. They're still going to be the best players in the world, arguably at their position, if they hit that. My only question is, why didn't it work at the last TI, Austin?
Okay.
You have to address the issues. Now, one of the issues was the team chemistry and synergy and mentality. Maybe they were just burnt out, right? Which is what they said. They played too long together. There's too much baggage. Like, it happens. They got to reset. So in theory, that some of that's been fixed, right? They all took a break. Coach took a break. Bring people back. You got one new player. Okay. I can believe that. But there's another big problem, Austin, which was the meta. The meta at that tournament that we just discussed. Absolute trash for that team. They could not even function. Like, you're trying to play support tinkers and shit. Like, Yotoro's hero pool doesn't exist. Collapse, it doesn't exist.
No.
But then I thought, like, the meta right now, if we had TI tomorrow, this meta has to be fucking good for them, right? It has to be good. There's just no way it's not good. But that's if TI happened tomorrow. And there's a lot that can change in 9 months. So I'm trying to weigh all these factors, Austin. I'm trying to weigh. Whereas on the other side, like these Bet Boom guys, I don't think they really care what the fuck the hero pool is. This pure guy, he's not even playing the meta. He's playing like Dawnbreaker Lone Druid from like 8 years ago. Like, what the fuck is even going on with this kid? I don't think they know what a meta is. They're their own meta. So if this goes back to some aura push shit, Spirit are fucked. But like Bet Boom, they still got a chance, Austin. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I'm trying to weigh all this shit. It's really close. And then there's one final factor, which is the head-to-head, Austin, because what happens when they have to potentially play each other in a top 3 scenario, and they're both CIS teams? Then my brain just gets fried. Because
I mean, historically speaking, that's a fucking shit show. Eastern Europe versus Eastern Europe.
Exactly.
Like, historically speaking,
Anything
that goes to crazy games.
Anything can happen. And I think Spirit are going to be, I think they're going to be good at TI. I think it's going to be a good meta. I think the chemistry things are going to be fixed. They're going to be motivated. Yatoro wants to be the 3x fucking GOAT, whatever. I think that's all true. But they end up in some fucking head-to-head against Bet Boom in a CIS matchup where like Bet Boom's confidence goes up because they fucking know him, right? And Spirit's ability to dominate the other team goes down because these inter-regional matchups are always a fucking shit show. They're always a shit show. You know that. It's a coin flip. And the thing is, when you bring it to a coin flip at TI, I think that's worse for Spirit. Right? Like, I legit think it is. Because I think they are not a coin flip versus anybody. So all this is like, it's real close for me, It's real close.
So you have Bet Boom first or not?
Ultimately though, Austin, I cannot go against the GOAT, and I put Team Spirit as my first team.
I fucking knew it.
Because ultimately,
I was waiting for the butt to drop.
I think what it'll come down to, Austin, is I think he will shave his head again. And it's fucking done. It's fucking over. The second he walks out on that TI stage and his head is shaved, it's fucking over, Austin. It's done. You can't do anything. Oh, it's the prophecy. It's fucking over. I currently have Spirit as my number 1 team to win TI, but I did put Bet Boom as 2. And I'm telling you, man, if those 2 teams meet in a top 3 at TI, it's going to be an absolute shit show. And I honestly don't know if Spirit are favored. I think they would be versus anybody else, but I don't know about that fucking matchup because that's a crazy matchup, brother. Let me tell you that. That's a crazy matchup, but the shaved head skewed it for me. I did end up putting Spirit number 1.
Shaved head. I'll also say one more thing I forgot to include in my Spirit thing, right? 2-time, right? The other team that has done the 2-time, OG, what were they notorious for, right? They were notorious for the break. They didn't fucking play the first fucking, 3-6 months of the season, right? And then they just, walk back into TI and kicked ass. And I think that like that is not, having this break right now is not actually a downside for you. I think it is potentially an advantage. As long as you have the motivation and the drive to get back in shape fast enough. And I think obviously Yatoro does, considering the way he's playing pubs. So, yeah.
I agree. I agree, but OG never went on to come close to that 3-peat. They're still trying, but
yeah.
It's a long way away, Austin.
Well, apparently they are the 9th favored team to win TI.
I mean, that's pretty good, honestly. I feel like that's very generous.
Good.
It's a very generous assessment.
It is extremely generous.
All right, so what are the final conclusions here, Austin? What did you learn from this?
That apparently we both believe in Spirit. I
actually am surprised that you put them 1. I am actually surprised. Obviously, I am biased towards that team.
I mean, I think it's just a combination of things, right? It just sort of ends up being that way. I feel like I knew Spirit's ranking was going to be higher for TI than it would be at their current power ranking. And then I know Falcons is going to go down, but how much are they going to go down, right? They're not going to be the most favored team for TI. Is Liquid going to go up to first? I don't have enough faith in that right now, but I think top 3 is acceptable. I think, Tundra, too many questions out there. Just kind of like everybody else actually had too many potential problems. And all I saw was motivation and wins ahead for Spirit. So
that's what I'm saying, dude. I think it's going to be the year of Eastern Europe, brother. That's my bold. Looking through these teams, I just think, man, these CIS carries are scary dudes. That's why I got Spirit, Bet Boom, Tundra, right? The CIS carries, man. Like, don't fuck with these guys. Because they'll come and fuck with you, and they're going to fuck you up. Like, that's where I'm going. But when those CIS carries meet, it's just a bloodbath. And I don't know what's going to happen with that. That was one of my big conclusions. The other regions are fucked. That was another one of mine. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing this power ranking, and I want to revisit these power rankings at some point further in this year and update them, see how they've changed, so we can store these, come back to them at a later date.
Yeah,
everybody can give their opinion.
We're gonna either look like fucking geniuses by the time TI rolls around, or fucking idiots. There's only one or two outcomes here, and they're very extreme.
That's the beauty, you put yourself out there, and you're either going to look like a genius or a fool, and either way is fun. That's why we're here. And I mean, Dota to me it's fun to do the stuff for Dota because I think it is ultimately completely unpredictable. Like, no matter what we say, we're going to be wrong on something. No one's ever made a completed bracket for TI ever, right? Because it's just impossible. Like, TI is just another beast. Even if some of the money pressure's gone, it's just, you don't know. You don't fucking know. So I look forward to seeing what this looks like in maybe 3 or 6 months and what it looks like in a year.
All right.
But I'm very confident in my Enigma Galaxy. Why are you laughing at that, dude? Like, why can't you entertain that they have like a point? Maybe it's like a 0.5% or 0.3%, but that's genuinely higher than I think a lot of other teams to get into. We're talking about like winning another one.
I don't disagree with your logic. Like, I just don't. Like, I agreed with some of the. I gave you more supporting evidence for your points. It's just, it was really fucking funny having you say 10th place laughing, Enigma Galaxy.
Why are you laughing? Who? Fuck off. End the episode. We're fucking done.
Thank you for watching another episode of Not for Broadcast. And list your power rankings in the comments below. See what you guys think. All right. Thank you. Goodbye.